guys, welcome to another episode of the Boston Chris podcast. Yeah, this week's podcast features an incredible singer-songwriter, recording artist, producer, Jack Williams. What an incredible storyteller, and what a treat it was to pick Jack's mind today. Let me tell you a little bit more about Jack here in a minute, but I would really like to earn your subscription with this video, or your follow wherever you are watching or listening from. So, if we do a good job, please consider a subscribe or a follow. Let me tell you more about what we chatted about with Jack. Jack grew up in the Miami and Eureka, Florida area. We talked a little bit about that and his tough childhood, how he started to write songs after being discharged from the Marines, his two passions being food and being a chef, and music and being a songwriter. The impact of and working with incredible legendary songwriters like Richie Havens, Pete Townsend and Roger Daltry from The Who, Ken Hensley from Uriah Heep, Ronnie Van Zandt from Leonard Skinner, Gregg Allman, and many others. We talk about his spoken word album, how he writes for TV and film and how he likes that, his Oak Ridge Boys years in Nashville, of course his friendship with Kevin Costner, working with young songwriter Jack Barksdale, who is a mutual friend of ours, and tons more. We get into it very, very in-depth and candidly with Jack in this episode. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Follow along with everything we have going on at The Boston Chris Show. And without any further ado, guys, let's get into it with the one and only, the legendary Jack Williams.
It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
Hey, this is Mark Irwin. Thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.
Hey guys, it's Jack Williams week here on the Boston Chris podcast. Man, what a treat it is to get to chat with some of the most talented songwriters from all over the world, and Jack is definitely one of those. How you doing today, man?
Doing good.
I appreciate you
Good to be
taking the
here.
time to chat with us, man.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
So yeah, the first song we're going to include as part of the episode is called Dancing in the Sun. Can you tell us a little bit about this one for us?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I sat down to write that record, I went to upstate New York to do it. I went to Canandaigua on Canandaigua Lake, and I had some friends up there, and I wanted to move up there really bad. I still do. I love it up there. It's probably my favorite place I've ever been, and I wrote the whole record up there in my apartment. That
Wow.
was the first song I wrote, and that told me exactly what I was going to really write the record about, and it was going to be about my childhood demons from being abused by my parents like I was. And I thought to myself, if you write this correctly, other people that have been abused will listen to it and see that you made it out of that darkness, and they can too. And so if you're going to write that record, and if you're going to write those songs, you're going to have to
Relive them.
be brutally honest, and
Yep.
you're going to have to go down to the dungeon, and you're going to have to do that. And so Dancing in the Sun I have an interesting relationship with God. My relationship with God is he's like a friend, a brother, but at the same time, I'll call his ass out whenever I want to. And I'll say, dude, where are you? Or I'll just say it. So Dancing in the Sun was why do I feel like crying? Why am I doing it? I mean, where are you? I was in a hole. I screamed and yelled, and you never showed up. And that's what that song came about. And then later on, as the record got further on, then I asked Kevin Costner, my friend,
Yeah.
if he'd do the duet with me on it.
Yeah, it's badass. I love it, and it's such a haunting song, and I think it's the perfect one to lead off this episode with. So I'm excited to show people "Dancing in the Sun." Y'all check it out.
You know, I've heard what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And I can't count the times in my life I've heard them words and longer. Many a day and night. And I'm thinking it should be about time I got as tough as these old hardwood floors. So even if I slip and fall, it won't hurt me anymore. So why do I feel like crying? Where are all these tears coming from? Why do I feel like I'm dying? And why am I coming undone? Why am I sitting in darkness, believing the end has begun, when I should be feeling like I'm in heaven, dancing in the sun?
You know, I heard God don't give you more than you can handle. Yeah, well, I guess he thinks I got a dump truck for a heart. Seems the more he loads me up, the more it weighs me down, the more it strips me apart. Pastor says God's gonna get you through the bad days. Say your prayers and he'll forgive your sins. Well, if that's the case, answer me this question. Where the hell's he been? So why do I feel like crying? Where are all these tears coming from? Why do I feel like I'm dying? Why am I coming undone? Why am I sitting in the darkness believing the end has begun, when I should be feeling like I'm in heaven, dancing in the sun?
Listen here, they say the good Lord's with you everywhere you go. And if you need him, all you gotta do is call. Well, funny, yesterday I was way down there in a peephole hole, and I couldn't find him anywhere at all. Hell, I called and I called and I screamed and I yelled. I guess he must have been busy with somebody else, because the Bible says keep praying and he'll be raising you out of hell. But tell me this. So why do I feel like crying? And where are these tears coming from?
Why do I feel like I'm dying? Why am I coming undone?
Why am I sitting in this darkness, believing the end has begun,
When I should be feeling like I'm in heaven, dancing in the sun.
when I should be feeling like I'm in heaven, dancing in the sun?
Dancing in the sun.
Dancing in the sun.
Dancing in the sun.
All right, so we're back with Jack Williams and Jack Williams. And you mentioned growing up and being abused. I did want to chat with you a little bit about that because, first of all, you grew up in the Eureka, Florida area. Is that correct?
Yep.
So what's it like in that part of the world?
Well, actually, I was born in Miami,
Okay.
and I went to ninth grade in Miami, and then he retired from the post office and moved us up to this town called Fort McCoy. which is right down the road from Eureka. But Fort McCoy had about 12 people, and Eureka had probably 30. And so I went from being a city boy in Miami to Redneckville, real Redneckville,
Yeah.
in the central part of Florida, where people fought with Bowie knives and 45s, and anything went. And so it was an interesting childhood, to say the least.
So how's music finding you at a young age?
Music didn't find me early. I did what everybody else at my age did back then, had bands that played Beatles songs and Rolling Stones songs, and I sang the Rolling Stones songs, and my buddies sang the Beatles songs that I really couldn't sing. Still can't, but I found a way to do my voice, and so it was more of a Mick Jagger-y kind of thing. And it wasn't until I was in the Marine Corps when I started writing.
Yeah.
And what would happen was I was always shy about girls, still am, but I found a way that if I wrote a poem and dropped it in their lap, they came running. And I went, wow, that's pretty cool. So I wrote poetry for the longest time, and then I met Richie Havens, and I met a bunch of people, and they said, you need to put music to your stuff. And so I started putting music to my stuff, and it was about time I was, I don't know, 20, when I finally put it all together.
When you're writing poetry, are you already playing instruments? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I was playing an instrument, but I didn't put it together. I didn't put the two together, so to speak. It was Peter Gabriel from Genesis.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Sure, absolutely. Sledgehammer.
He's the first person I ever met in this business, and I took him. I got lucky, and I was in Atlanta, living in Atlanta, and Alice Cooley at that time was the promoter for everything in the Southeast, and he took a liking to me and my music, and he gave me a backstage pass. It was good anytime, any day, any show, because I was very respectful back there. I didn't do anything weird. And he said, this is how I help you. You're a songwriter, meet people. And so Genesis was playing at the Omni, I believe it was, and he came out of his dressing room, and I asked him if he'd take a minute, and he said, sure, what do you need? And I just was wondering if maybe you'd look at my songs. So I gave him a couple lyric sheets, and he read them, and he said, well, these are really good. He said, but these aren't songs. And I said, oh, and he went, no, these are poems. He said, song is when you put this together with music. And I went, oh. And he went, you play any instrument? And I said, yeah, I play guitar. And he said, well, put it together. And I went, oh, I'm not sure how to do that. And he said, you listen to music? I said, obviously. He said, well, listen to how music and lyrics go together and figure it out. And that was my first kick in the door. And
It's a crash course, isn't it?
And I did it,
Yeah.
I did it. And the next person I met was Richie Havens. It was a whole other story, but it taught me how to put the music and the words together. And I was literally 21 years old.
Yeah. So reading a little bit about you, it's become pretty apparent to me that your two passions are food and music. Which one came first? Because you've had a long-standing career in being a chef and stuff like that, being a musician. So which one came first? Which passion?
Well, to be honest with you, they came together. What happened was I got married the first time around at a very, very early age at 20. And I wanted to write songs, but I had to make a living.
Yeah.
And we were living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. And I just looked at the want ads, and the first want ad that showed up was Broiler Man for the Neal House, and at the time, the Neal House in Columbus, Ohio, was a 5-star hotel, and so I went and knocked on the back then. This is what you could do this, I went and knocked on the kitchen door back in the back, and chef opened up the door, Chef Harry Rose. I mean, if master chef, and he opened up the door and he said, I said, I'm applying for that broiler cook job. He said, well, come on in. And I did it right. I did it in the middle of the afternoon during the slow time, and he had me come in, and one thing led to another, and he gave me a job. And so now I have a cook's job, a really good one, and I fell in love with it, and I rocketed all the way to being a chef in a matter of a couple of years, because I just got that in my blood, and I loved it. And so everything was going at the same time. While I was writing songs, I was cooking, and I would go on the road and work with bands and be their roadie on the weekends, but I'd still be cooking, and I would do this and I would do that. I mean, even when I met The Who, I was cooking at the Abbey in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I was a sous chef at the Abbey, and I just kept doing it, and I kept cooking forever until I came to a crossroads. I came to a crossroads where if I went that way, I was going to end up cooking at like maybe the Governor Mansion or the White House or a yacht. And if I went that way, I was going to be a songwriter working with The Who, Uriah Heep, the Allman Brothers. And I took that path, stupidly.
The starving musician, right?
But anyway, my point is that it's always been with me. I'll cook for anybody, anytime, any day. I love it. So they came together.
Yeah, and you mentioned Richie Havens, who, again, man, what an incredible artist and songwriter, and I feel like, unfortunately, not enough people know who he is and was. Just what an incredible talent he was.
Not anymore.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about the impact of meeting him and how that changed your life so much.
Well, Richie, he became my best friend. He became my mentor. He became my publisher. He became my manager. I moved me to New York City, gave me his houseboat to live on. He taught me what it was to be an artist. He taught me what it was to be an individual in the music business. He taught me how to treat people. I mean, little story. I was playing the Bottom Line with my band, and we were showcasing for Asylum Records, and big show got done, and Richie and I were crowded backstage. Somebody came up to me and had a kind of a dirty t-shirt on and mussed up hair, and just kind of like, and tapped me on my back and told me that I had a great career in the music business, and that I was talented, blah, 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 beyond belief. And I blew him off. I went, yeah, man, thanks. And I walked away, and I blew him off completely, like a young idiot. And Richie took me into a closet and proceeded to put me up against the wall and said, do you know who you just pushed away? And I went, no, I don't. Like a jerk. And he went, oh, that was Dave Mason. And he said, so your Dave Mason relationship will never happen because he thinks you're a joke. And so I learned real quick not to treat people like that, really quickly, and I never have since. And so he taught me a lot of those lessons. He taught me how to perform. We were in England on tour together. I was opening up shows, but it was my first tour ever. And first night out, it was a college tour, sold out. For him, not me. I got up on stage and my legs couldn't stop shaking. I mean, really, I couldn't settle my legs from the knees down. I couldn't settle. They just kept shaking, and I couldn't get comfortable until I couldn't get into the zone, and I just was terrible that night, and I couldn't do anything. And so we're sitting there and back at the rooms and stuff, and he said, "So you're really uncomfortable tonight, weren't you?" And I went, "Yeah, completely." And I said, "I blew everything. I did this, I did that." And he went, "Well, let's figure out why." I said, "Well, I guess I was really nervous." He said, "Yeah, but I don't know, Jack. You like playing in front of people. I don't think that was it." He said, "You know what I think it was?" I said, "What?" He said, "What were you wearing on your feet?" I said, "Cowboy boots." He said, "Right." He said, "What do you normally wear?" I said, "I don't know, tennis shoes, flat-footed shoes of some sort, flat-footed combat boots, stuff like that." And he said, "Need I say more? Wear them tomorrow night and see what happens." So I took the boots off and put on my combat boots, and nervousness never happened. And I went, "No." He was like, you said, it's all about comfort, Jack. If you're not comfortable wearing something, even a hat, if you're not comfortable wearing something out there, you're not going to do a good job. And I learned, I was 21 years old.
So I got a question for you, because like I'm looking at your career, and so much of your career is just asking the right people the right questions. What do you kind of owe that to? Where'd you learn that lesson?
God, I don't know. I was born with it. I guess I can tell you that it wasn't something that was ever taught to me. I can just tell you that from day one, I guess it's, from day one, I'm going to do this. I want to meet this person. And I was willing to do whatever it took. If it meant sitting, those days I would sit in the lobby of a hotel 12 hours by myself. Broke.
Yeah.
Couldn't spend any money because I was married with a baby, and I just I couldn't have lunch in the gift. I couldn't have lunch in the restaurant. I just sat there and waited for whoever I was waiting for to come through that door so I could say, "Hey, can you give me 5 minutes?" Because I believe that, and I still do believe that everybody, if they're approached properly, if they're a peer of some sort, they'll listen to you.
Sure.
And I never took my wife. I never took my friends would want to go over. And one time I took somebody with me, and he bitched the whole time about how long. "Wow, man, we've been here 3 hours." And finally I went, "Go home," but I always succeeded in what I was after. And the only accident that ever happened was the Who. That was an accident. I was on my way to work, and I saw him in the parking lot, and I just pulled over, and in my whites, hop hat, didn't have the hat on, but I had my whites on. I was working at the Abbey, and walked up to the first guy I saw, and said, "What's the chances of meeting Roger Daltry?" And he said, "Slim and none, mate." And I said, "Okay." And I turned around and walked. He went, "Whoa. What? You don't look like an autograph seeker, so what do you want?" And I went, "I'm a songwriter." He said, "Well, why didn't you say something?" He said, "Roger loves songwriters." So that relationship started and got me signed with the Who, and that was an accident. And then from that point on, every time I went after a situation, I went after it all the way to.
See, that's the thing, right? That's an accident, but like for me, like I'm around people all the time like that, right? Like the people that you're maybe a little shy to approach because they're approached all the time. So like I feel like there's been many times where I regret maybe just a little bit of trepidation or just a little bit of not going through and that one moment of trepidation can stop you from a chance meeting. It happens to me all the time. That tenaciousness for you, that tenacity, kind of pushes you through those moments where if you even scuffle for a bit, you're going to miss out on that chance, right? So even though it might have been a lucky thing, it was your tenacity that made you approach and notice the opportunity for what it was.
Well, I think Peter Gabriel, once again, he set something in motion inside of my head to which I still live by. And he, as we were shaking hands and leaving, and I was bowing out, he said, I need you to remember something. And he said, if you remember that one thing, you'll go far in this business. And I said, what's that? He said, remember the 3 Ps. And I went, what's the 3 Ps? He went persistent, patience, and perseverance. You have those 3, you'll go far. And I stuck by perseverance. Shit, I'm 73 and I'm still doing it. You know what I mean? I'm not done. I'm not even close to being done. So perseverance is and persistence. Knocking on Richie Havens' door for 7 hours till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Persistence, and sometimes to the point of being, you are a pain in the ass. What do you want?
Yep.
I want to talk to you about something that could benefit both of us. And once they hear that, I don't care if you walked up to Brad Pitt. If you go, I got something that would work for both of us. Well, what is it? What if we wrote a song for you, man? Oh, well, no one's ever said that. Oh, wow, man, let's talk about that. Suddenly, you're in the door properly.
Yeah.
And honestly. And all you got to do is deliver then, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is...
that all breeds from self-confidence, knowing that you can do the right thing. Like, you get through the door, you know you have the goods, so to speak, right? But if you fall short of that, man, word gets around, right?
I've never had self-confidence in my life.
Really?
I don't think any of us do. It's all phony, but at least we pretend we do.
Yeah, fake it till you make it, right?
Right.
So you talked about signing that publishing deal with the Who and Pete and Roger. I mean, obviously that's probably the biggest step musically for you up until that point in your career. What's happened in your head at that time?
Oh my God! I mean, I'd been on the road with him for 6 months. It was now I'm still cooking, but now I get to go home and write song after song and send it to Pete, and Pete's going to critique it, And I learned that's who taught me how to write songs properly, And I mean, I was at the Hollywood Bowl 3 months ago on their last show at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was with Roger. And so that 50-year thing came full tilt around,
Yeah.
We still, and I still thank him undeniably all the time for kicking that door open for me.
So prior to that, you're still taking that advice from Peter, trying to figure out how to put your poems together with music. But it was Pete that kind of really honed that craft for you.
Yeah, it taught me what to do and what not to do. Kind of what they do with young songwriters in Nashville, Well, I learned it from Pete and Ken Hensley. Ken Hensley taught me a hell of a lot. All those guys did. I learned a lot by being in England the whole time. I got to hang with the big dogs, I was running with Alvin Lee, Ken Hensley. I even had George Harrison on a demo. It was in the major leagues, but I was way too young for it. I was way too young for these guys were all bona fide rock stars doing bona fide magnificent amounts of this and magnificent amounts of that. And I was a rookie, and I didn't want to do magnificent amounts of what they were doing. But I still hung.
I see pictures from you. I see pictures of you from back then hanging with those guys, and you just look like a deer in the headlights. You know what I mean? Like, is this really happening?
God, you better believe it. It's like I wish that all was happening now, because now I'd be able to.
You'd be more dangerous, wouldn't you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I understand, man. Like I said, man, just reading your story and seeing kind of the step to step transition. You go from the Who to Uriah Heep somehow, and you move full time to London. What's behind that decision, other than holy crap, this is Uriah Heep?
Well, that was another one of those deals. Ken Hensley at the time was my favorite songwriter
Okay,
of all.
yeah,
I loved Uriah Heep. I loved his songs. I loved the way he wrote July Morning and Look at Me, Look at Yourself, and Proud Words on a Dusty Shelf and Cold Autumn Sunday, all those rock anthems that he wrote. And so I was like, and so they came to Atlanta. I knew when they were coming to Atlanta. And so I found out where they were going to stay, what hotel they were going to stay in. And that's one of those days. I got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they did not even come through the front door until about 3:30 in the afternoon, and they were running. They were late for sound check, and so when they ran through, I didn't even get a chance to say anything. Ran straight into the hotel rooms and then ran out. But on the way out, I grabbed Ken for 1 second. I said, Ken. He turned around. He said, what's up, mate? I'm in a hurry. I said, any chance we could talk? I'm a songwriter. And he said, you going to the show? I said, yeah, I'll be there. He said, we probably won't have time there. He said, but I'm going to be at the bar around 11 o'clock. Meet me there. And sure enough, 11 o'clock, he showed up with the band, and we hung out. I talked to him and told him at the time I was still writing for The Who. I still was under that contract, but that was about the end. So that gave me a good end, when you tell somebody you're writing.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
So, so he said, you got something I can listen to? And I gave him a cassette with 3 songs on it, or 4. Looking back, they weren't very good back then, but they were cool. They had been done. They were demoed properly, and he said, "Well, let me get home. Tonight's our last night. I'm gonna go home and get rested, and I got time to listen to it. I'll give you a call." Yeah.
Wow.
Adios, amigo.
Yeah.
And that was the end of that until 5 months later, my phone rang.
Wow.
And he said, this is Ken Hensley. And I went, huh?
Let's go.
And he said, I got a proposition for you. And I went, what? He said, you want to write for my publishing company? I said, I think we can get a couple of your songs on the next Uriah Heep record, which has never been done by an outside songwriter.
Right.
But I really like what you're doing, and we're together. I think we can do it. And I went, well, let's do it. And he said, well, there is one catch. And I said, what's that? And he said, you can't bring your wife and kid. I can't support them. He said, I can put you in a nice little house and give you a car, give you $100 a week. But I can't, she's going to have to work. It's going to have to be a little bit of a long distance relationship. So that's a decision you're going to have to make. And he said, make it soon. And before we hung up, he said, and remember, Jack, opportunity knocks once. That door shuts, you don't know when it's going to knock again. So of course, it didn't sit well at the house. And
Yeah.
But I did it anyway, of course. I did it anyway, and the rest is history. I ended up with Uriah Heep on 2 different albums, a song on every Ken Hensley album after that, to the day he died. And worked with Marianne Faithfull, worked with, watched Led Zeppelin rehearse 10 feet away in a rehearsal room.
Wow.
Watched, met Alvin Lee, Simon Kirke, Mick Rouse, Paul Rogers. I mean, it was a great time for me. It was one of the best times of my life. One of the best, 1975, 6, and 7 in England was my best years.
Yeah. So I just want to catch people up, right? So we're talking some of the best songwriters in music history that Jack is literally just transitioning from one to the next. We're talking Peter Gabriel, Richie Havens, Pete Townsend, Roger Daltrey, now Jack Hensley, and somehow or another you end up back in Florida, and now you're playing songs or showing songs to Ronnie Van Zandt. Now, how'd this come to be?
That came from England too. I was, this was 1976, and I was still living in England, and Leonard Skinner came over to play at Nebworth Festival, opening up for the Rolling Stones, and a day that will be famous forever. And so I found out where they were staying. And that was easy money there. Those guys were just country boys, fun boys. And so, I mean, I'm from Florida, so I just showed up. It's easier in England when a Southern boy shows up at your hotel and the bar, and they're in the bar, and it turns into, Jesus, man, I'm a songwriter. I've written songs for Uriah Heep. I've done this, I've done that. And suddenly you're in that camp. And only difference was we really hit it off. We became really good. Like most people I've worked with, we became really good buddies overnight. Ronnie and I, Alan and Gary. I mean, we just hit it off. And I went with them to Nebworth and watched them literally blow the Stones off the stage. And that, I don't know if you know much about Nebworth, but that show in 1976. Todd Rundgren opened up for Skinner. Skinner opened up for the Rolling Stones, and Mick Jagger forbid Ronnie to walk out to do any walking out on the tongue, which went out into the crowd.
Yeah.
There was 250,000 people there. And
Wow.
Ronnie on Freebird did it. He walked right out on there, and he captured that crowd like never before, to the point where Mick Jagger was so mad, he pulled the show back a half an hour so the crowd would just calm down. And the Stones never recovered from that show. And there was a lot of people. That's where I met Jack Nicholson and a lot of people back in the backstage. But that was, so we ended up, so they went home. I mean, I wasn't close to going home yet, but they were coming back. But Ronnie said, but we'll be back in January at the Rainbow Theater, so let's get together then. So we did. And I think there's some pictures on my website of Ronnie holding my daughter at that show. Anyway, so that's when, what are you doing now? Because it was getting time for me, 77 was getting time for me to leave and come back to America. And my visa was about up. And he said, why don't you come to Jacksonville? I mean, we were living in Atlanta at the time. He said, why don't you move your wife to Jacksonville, baby? And he said, we'll all hang. And there's plenty of places to play in Jacksonville. And you'll get to meet the guys in 38 special. Yeah. And there's plenty of bands that would just love to have you around. So I did. And it became another year of great fun stuff. But then around early September, Ken called me up and said that Uriah Heep was doing yet another album, and they were going to put 3 of my songs on this record. I should come back. So I did. And 1 month later is when I got the phone call in the middle of the night that the plane crashed.
Oh, man.
And I could not go home at that moment. And then I did go home finally and put everything. And that was the end of working in England. And I stayed in Jacksonville with Alan and Gary while they were recuperating, and hung out with them. And then finally I went back to New York to work with Richie.
So full circle again. And I have a question for you, man. You're landing these cuts with some of the biggest rock acts of all time. But I've read on your website that you owe your career to 3 things: luck, talent, and tenacity. I'm curious how much of each of those you attribute to landing some of these incredible cuts.
Tenacity.
You give it most to the tenacity.
luck doesn't have anything to do with it. I don't think anymore. I used to think that, but I don't anymore. I think it's just pure. Like do I still have people that I want to meet and have them hear my songs for some kind of project they might have going on? Yeah. And I maybe don't do it like I used to do it with the big tanks and the mortars and the M60s. Maybe I sit back now and go, man, I don't see a way in right now, where I used to, like even with Kevin, no red flags stopped me there. But now maybe I go, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not as important as it should be. But I still would love to meet that person, those people, and if there's an opportunity, and if I see a way in, I'll go charging.
Yeah, so I've been listening to your catalog a lot, okay, and I'm so damn impressed with some of the artists that have cut songs from you, and I'm going to talk about one later that might surprise you that we have in common as a mutual buddy. But would you say that meeting and hanging out with Ronnie Van Zandt for those moments, would you say that was the biggest thing that kind of led you on your path to Nashville eventually?
No, actually, no. Ronnie did not lead me on my path to Nashville. Dickie Betts did.
Okay.
No, Dickie Betts did. When I landed in Sarasota. God, I don't even remember why, but I landed in Sarasota, and when I landed in Sarasota, I met Gregg.
Again. See, like he's just walking up to people.
But Gregg, it was I put a band together, and
Is this Streets of Ice now?
Somebody, huh?
Is this Streets of Ice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody knew somebody that knew the sound man. There was the Allman Brothers sound man,
Okay.
Bud Snyder. Bud Snyder came back and said, tell Jack he can rehearse in the Allman Brothers rehearsal space. They're not working right now. So I go to the Allman Brothers rehearsal space in Bradenton. All of a sudden one day walks in Gregg Allman. And he loves my stuff.
Wow.
And sits there and blah, blah, blah. Another day Dickie Betts walks in and we start talking about Dickie Betts producing the band. So all that happened. And then I'm sitting there. Now, I don't know much about Nashville at this point. I'm sitting there talking to Dickie and Gregg, and I don't know where to go next, but I know it ain't here. I don't know if I should go back up to New York. I don't know if I should go to LA. I don't know if I should go to Austin. But I know it ain't. My dreams are bigger than Bradenton.
Yeah, of course.
And Dickie Betts said, you need to go to Nashville where songwriters live and work. That's a songwriter town. And back then, it really was. And so he took me there and he introduced me to his manager. It was Joe Sullivan, Sound 70 Productions. And Joe makes a couple phone calls and I end up with a publishing deal with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Yeah.
And I stayed in Nashville for quite a while, many years.
Was there any
30.
kind of adjustment period for you, going from all of these, rock cuts and stuff like that? Now you're with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Nobody liked me here. Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't welcomed here much.
I'm sure.
Because I wasn't writing country music.
Yeah.
But the Oak Ridge Boys loved what I was doing. And they thought that the country music was going to go in a more rock way anyway, and they thought having me on board was a good idea, which was. And then
the stuff you wrote for the Oak Ridge Boys has an edge to it. I mean, you can tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Seasons definitely did.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And that's when Gregg cut Bullets. And when that happened, then Gregg and I really got close, and I went out on the road with him for a while. quite a while, and then I was back in the rock and roll world and out of the country music world. I never, country music and me never meshed. I always was on the fringe of it. I've never had a country music hit, probably never will, because it's a different club.
Yeah.
It's a good old boys club that I think you have to be in from the minute you're born.
Almost feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and if you're not a country boy, you know, if you're not that,
I would have swore you were about to say the word ass kisser. I thought you were going to say ass kisser. If you're not an ass kisser,
I don't think that. But I do think you have to. I'm sure there's a little bit of that. Even I've done it. But
yeah, we all have.
But no.
So what's it like writing with Gregg? Like, again, one of the most talented songwriters in history.
He's a general. He was a gentle giant. It was fun.
So, is there anything specifically you can look back at that you learned from him?
What not to do
Are we talking in life or musically or both?
in life.
Yeah, I was going to say. All right, so I mentioned earlier that we have a mutual friend. Now, I have access. I'm really lucky. I'm one of those that has access to BMI. I guess if you pay like a monthly thing, you can kind of look at BMI and ASCAP. They have like this website where you can go in and see a songwriter's credits. So anytime I'm chatting with an amazing songwriter like you, Jack, I go in there and I look at the catalog. And your catalog, again, is hundreds of songs on there. But there was one name that stuck out to me, and it wasn't Gregg Allman, and it wasn't, Montgomery Gentry. It was Jack Barksdale. I
love Jack.
I am such a huge fan of Jack, and we interviewed Jack back when he was 10 years old, and we're talking about one of the most talented young people in the world right now. And I saw that you have at least that I saw 3 songs written with Jack that he's recorded. Talk about him a little bit, man, because this is the opposite. This is mentoring somebody younger than you, right?
I didn't mentor anything. This guy didn't need anything. But what I did, it was funny. I was doing the Frank Brown. I remember I met him at the Frank Brown. He was on a round, and he was backstage. And it was this little guy, and he was a little kid, and he had this long hair, and he talked with this really high-pitched voice. And his mom and dad were there, and the whispers were, "Have you ever heard him?" No. And when he got up on stage and he played that guitar, and we all fell off, and it was like, holy. And then when I always close with Bullets when I play live, and I said, man, you want to play Bullets with me? And it was like, it should have been recorded. I mean, the kid was like Dwayne Allman. Yeah. And so we decided we were going to write some songs together, and we did, and it was so much fun. I mean, he was a green back then, but everybody loved that kid, and he's man, I'm so glad to see how successful he's getting.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to him in a while, but I'd love to.
Yeah, he's got a rocket ship on his back, and I hope it just keeps making him bigger and bigger.
But most of my catalog isn't in BMI; it's in ASCAP.
Yeah, no, this is the website that I use puts both of them in there. It's both, yeah.
Okay.
But one of my it's so hard to choose one, so I will never say my favorite Jack Barksdale song, but one of my favorites is My Mother. It just hits so hard, and I'll tell you the truth, when I saw that on the catalog with your name and his name on there, I was like, there's no frickin' way that I'm chatting with H. Jack Williams, and his co-write with Jack Barksdale is one of my favorite tunes that Jack does. Just what a hard-hitting song for somebody so young when he performed that.
Yeah, there's another one we wrote. I can't remember. I really, really liked, and I can't remember what it was. It was the first one we ever wrote, but he tore it up on that record.
Yeah, he's just an incredibly gifted kid.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah.
If you see him, say hi.
I will. I haven't seen him in a minute either, but yeah, him and I need to catch up because it's been a minute, like 10 years old. And I don't even think I interviewed him. I think it was my wife that interviewed him So I don't think I've even interviewed him yet, so that, I guess that wouldn't count. But yeah, I had to mention that on the show today because, man, what an awesome kid. Talk a little bit about having TV hits, or not hits but cuts, like working for or writing songs for TV and film, because that's kind of something.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah,
That's all I want to do, because that's the one area where everything is still real and honest.
yeah, you can tell stories still, right?
It's just honest music. I just spent a month in a cabin in the woods, and I just wrote 20, probably the best songs I've ever written in my entire life, which,
wow.
of course, 10 of them will go on the next record, and it's not going to be a spoken word record. I'm actually singing the stuff, and it's really some of the greatest stuff, and it's because of the TV and film people that I know, and I think that what makes TV and film happen these days is the voices singing it, and I think they're going to enjoy what I'm getting ready to do here next. And I just, when you, like when I had the big Yellowstone song on, it's just the anticipation of watching that episode, and then it comes on, and it's like, wow, look where they placed it. I would have never put
how
it there.
they use it, it's cool, right?
Like, you put it there?
Yeah.
Why would you put it there? But it doesn't matter. It's just they have a different, I love their imagination of where they might take the most beautiful love song and stick it on a murder scene.
Yeah.
And you go, what?
Mm-hmm.
So you just write the song that you feel, and, and go with it.
Man, I love the way you talk about that, because, yeah, you're right. Like, there's not really a place for storytelling type songs anymore, except in movies and TV. Radio don't want them, right? Like, the radio doesn't want them anymore, which sucks. I did want to chat about the spoken word album. I did not know the genesis for it being abuse and all that, so that interests me a little bit. The record is called Something About Hope. So first question is, I guess, what was the choice for spoken word? Is it because of the where it came from, that childhood abuse? You wanted to keep it raw. Is that why?
Boy, it's a sore spot with me
Sure.
right now. The sore spot is that a good friend of mine came back from the Grammys 3 years ago and said, man, there's a category called spoken word, and you should write a spoken word record where you talk it all the way through and do your music behind it. So that's what I did. And if you listen to songs on there like Broken for Life, that fiddle player on there is the fiddle player is Katie Jacoby, the fiddle player from The Who.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of guest stars on there, but I wrote it and I talked it. Last year, put it up for a Grammy, and the people that I was involved in it put it in the wrong category. They put it in Americana, and I didn't stand a chance there.
No.
This year, everybody said put in spoken word, spoken word, spoken word, spoken word. So we geared the whole year around putting in a spoken word, only to wake up on November 7th when they announced the nominees, and they get the spoken word, and it's all hip hop. And I went, and I should have known better. I went, you know what? You should have known that spoken word poetry was going to be hip hop, and you're not hip hop. So again, the record got put in the wrong category. So that's done. It's like I'm not gonna put it out there again next year. It's just I'll do a new one and learn my lesson. This time I'll make sure that I'm in the right category, because people like to they like to liken you to something.
Yep.
And my heroes they liken me to my heroes. My heroes are Tom Waits, Leonard Cohen. And so people like Jack's a lot like Tom Waits, or Jack's a lot like Leonard Cohen, or Townsend Van Zandt, or something like that. And so I Googled it, and I went, okay, what categories did they write in? Tom Waits was in rock and folk, and Leonard Cohen was in rock and folk. And so from now on, I think I'm just going to go folk.
What was the idea to have like guest vocalists on the record as well, like Ward and Kevin and John Fusco?
I thought it would help with the Grammy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been my dream. I remember when I went to work with Uriah Heep, Ken Hensley asked me, "I need to know what your biggest dream in life is," and I said, "Win a Grammy." And he laughed and laughed, and he said, "By the time you win a Grammy," he said, "it's going to be in the last part of your life." And I mean, we thought I stood a chance with this record on that, and it was just because it was in the wrong category.
Well, I hope people will check it out because it's badass. It really is a badass record. Like, it just,
Thank you.
yeah, from beginning to end, it's so cool. There's nothing like it. Like, there legitimately is nothing like it out there.
That's probably the problem.
Yeah,
I think that's a
perhaps,
problem.
yeah.
When people go, I don't know what it is. It's not country. It's not folk. It's not rock. I don't know what it is. When people do that, you don't stand a chance.
Yeah, you don't have you can't be categorized, and I mean that's a good
Right.
thing, but it's a bad thing too. It's a bad thing when you're trying to get noticed for it from outside
That's
sources.
right.
Yeah. But again, man, the creativeness of it, the freedom that you have in the record, man, kudos on that because it is a badass
Listen to
record.
Broken for Life. That's the story of the days of what would happen when my father pulled out the garden hose.
Yeah, it's powerful shit, man. Really, truly. Congratulations on it. Let's chat a little bit about the second song I'd like to include here, which is also on that record. It's called Jesus and Me. And I was talking about Ward. This is the one with Ward and you on it, right? Tell us a little about this song.
When we wrote this song, it was just it's just like, whatever I do, that's between Jesus and me. If I want to drink my guts out, if I want to be as bad as I want to be, that's between him and me, not you guys. And I thought a lot of people could relate to that, and Ward did too, and so it was cool.
Yeah, it could be titled "None of Your Business," huh? Basically.
So to speak.
Yeah. Which I love, man. Like, just mind your business, bro. And we need a lot of that today because everybody's got their nose in everybody else's ass.
Oh boy.
You know what I mean?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Jack, I appreciate it, man. I got some quick segments I want to do with you. This is called Off the Rails, which I think you'll have a lot of fun with. This is just 8 segments. Some of these I'm going to give you 2 titles to choose from, and you can try to figure out what the segment is based on the titles, okay? So the first one, choose either Did You Know, or the other one is called Algorithm. Which one would you like to try?
Did you know?
Okay, so Did You Know, can you tell us something that people may not know about you?
I used to tournament shark fish.
Really? Tournament shark fishing. Is that all in Florida? Is that based on being a Florida boy?
Yeah. I got 3rd place in the state of Florida with a 500-pound bull.
Golly, let's go. Catch the fish, you probably know how to cook it too, right?
Oh, you don't eat shark.
I know.
Not big shark. Not
No.
big shark.
Yeah. I remember catching them when I was a kid. They'd just, man, that was kind of traumatic. Now that I think about it, we'd be cod fishing, deep sea fishing in Massachusetts. We'd catch those little dogfish and they'd break their noses and throw them back. And I'm just like, golly, that's so.
That's one of my dreams. I mean, that's one of the last few dreams I had is to go to Montauk and go great white fishing off of Montauk.
Oh, man, that'd be incredible. All right, next segment's called Impactful. I love this segment so much. Can you tell us 3 people that impacted your life in some way? And then tell us the number one thing you learned from each of those people.
3 people?
Yeah.
Including the people we've already talked about?
Well, no, you can use those if you want, yeah.
Well, obviously Richie Havens, he impacted me with teaching me what I was about to become and what the road I was going to go on would look like. And then there was a woman in my life way back in the Jacksonville days, and she taught me how to treat a woman, and she really did. And then I think Kevin Costner has taught me so much about being your own person, standing up for yourself, and believing in yourself when no one else does.
I'll keep it real, man. I've met a lot of people in my time, and if I had a top 5 list of people I still want to meet, Kevin Costner is on that list.
He's a great man.
Yeah, he just seems
And
like
a great friend.
Yeah, it just seems like such a down-to-earth dude, and hopefully that'll happen someday. That'd be cool. All right, next one. Choose either Mount Rushmore or choose one artist. Those are the titles of each of those segments.
Artist.
All right, so who is one artist or songwriter that you wish the whole world knew about?
God, that's a tough one.
Absolutely is.
One artist or songwriter. Oh, there's so many songwriters out there that are so great that no one will ever know who they are. Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. Artist or songwriter. I've
There's
done
somebody
so
that
many
you
songs.
wish would have gotten more heraldness when they were.
Oh well, there was a guy named Clayton Anderson that I worked with back in the day, a country guy, and he cut a whole bunch of my songs, and he's great from Indiana. I'm sorry. He's still going strong, but he slipped through the cracks. I don't know how come. He had everything that anybody would have wanted in a country star. I don't know why he didn't make it. You never know why things like that, why,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen with one of them.
Yeah. See, great answer. I'll be looking them up. I'm excited. That's part of the reason why I do that segment is because I want to know more.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, I'll check him out. All right, next segment's called What the Heck? This is a game show style segment where I'm just going to ask you 5 random questions. Tell me the first thing that hits your mind when I ask the question. Number 1, what do you think you are most afraid of?
Dying.
Me too. That being that your own mortality is so scary. Like, it happens to me all the time. All right. Number 2, what is the funniest thing you ever wore? Hanging out with the Who and Uriah Heep. I can't wait to hear this one.
A fringe jacket.
All right. Number 3. If you could spend 1 hour with anyone from the past, who would it be and what would you talk about?
Oh, from the past?
Yeah.
I'd love to go back and hang out some more with Gary Rickrath. We were really good buddies, and I wish that he was still alive and we could still be writing songs. We wrote a handful of songs when REO Speedwagon was at the top of their game, and I loved Gary. And so, yeah, I'd love to spend some time with Gary.
Cool. All right. Number 4. What was your most awkward moment on stage? Other than your legs shaking in cowboy boots.
Well, we opened up for Hot Tuna, and a couple of the boys ate some of the cookies when they were told not to. And I didn't.
What happened?
Because I did what Richie told us to do. Richie told us not to eat the cookies. And the boys in the band said, screw it. And they did. And that show went, what was supposed to be a great opening show turned into a farce.
So funny. All right. Last one, number 5. Oh my God. Don't eat the cookies. Don't ever tell a band what to do. They're going to do the opposite. All right.
Yeah.
Ever. All right. Number 5. What do you think is your weirdest talent? Trying to think of one.
I don't have one.
Okay.
I only got a couple talents.
All right. We'll change. How about this one? What do you think cats dream about?
What did you say?
What do you think cats dream about?
Killing dogs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't think it's birds or mice. I think they want to kill what's above them. I think that's the dream. All right, next segment. Choose either bucket list or choose fly on the wall.
Bucket list.
All right, what's on your bucket list of things you still want to do? Is it win a Grammy? Or is that gone
Not
now?
no more.
Yeah.
No more. If you really want to know the truth of what I really want to do on my bucket list, I've been trying to do for 5 years now, and that's connect with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and their production company and get them to listen to some songs that would work in some of their films.
Huh. Do they not have a, what do you call it? Usually they have like a publisher or something that Sends movies. Do they have a production company?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured. All right. Next one.
Hard to get through that front door though.
Man, I'll tell you what. TV and film is hard anyway. Like you can't. It's impossible
Yeah, but-
even to get a hold of an actor, like a minor actor.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a tough
but
business.
there's got to be a way in.
I'm sure there is. Yeah. I see people like interview actresses and actors all the time. I just don't know how the hell they do it. Anyway, choose either biggest lesson or choose moment of gravity.
Biggest lesson probably.
All right. So, what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned directly from music?
Being a dreamer is a heartbreaker.
Man, ain't that the truth? But I mean, being a dreamer is also amazing once it hits, right?
Mm-hmm. But there's those highs and lows. As you get older, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. I have my son, TJ, he's 21 years old now. He's at college, but Loretta Lynn was a dear friend of mine, and she didn't live far from where we lived, and I would go visit her a couple times a week. Then on the weekends, I would take TJ because she loved TJ. One day she asked TJ, she said, TJ, he's a nerd. I mean, never played music. He never watched sports. He's a chemical engineer. He's going to graduate chemical engineering in a couple months, and honor student. And she said, why don't you want to be a songwriter like your daddy? He sat there for a minute, and he looked at her and he said, you know, Miss Loretta, I couldn't ride those emotional roller coasters I've seen my dad ride all his
Oh
life.
man, tough.
So that's what you get.
Yeah, that's eye-opening as a dad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, tough stuff. All right, I got 2 segments left. Next one's called Grateful. What do you think of the 3? What are the 3 things you are most grateful for?
I'm still grateful for being alive, number one, because I sure have been cheated death quite a few times. I'm still grateful that I can still write a great song, and that it still comes through me like water. And I'm still grateful that I still have a good heart, and I'm not jaded.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, don't let bitterness grab you, right? Yeah, I imagine that's probably nothing worse for creativity than bitterness.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last one.
And I've been bitter.
Go ahead.
No, I've not been bitter. So, I mean, I've been there.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's a tough place to be, man. There's not a whole lot of logic when you're bitter, which sucks. All right, last one. Last segment is called "Who Do You Think You Are?" So, who is H. Jack Williams?
I'm somebody that's done a whole lot in this world, and I wish more people knew about it.
I love it, man, and I hopefully we can help. You know, I love these interviews because they're out there forever, right? So people will search for you and learn more about you, and I appreciate you coming on and trusting us with your story today, Jack.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to tell people where they can follow along with you. The website is hjackwilliamsmusic.com. Incredible website. There is all kinds of stuff on here through to kind of document Jack's 50 plus years in music, and from an incredible photo gallery, which he alluded to earlier, videos, his music is on here. If you want to connect with Jack, you can do it through there as well. The social medias, he's got a Facebook, which is H. Jack Williams Music. He's got an Instagram, which is H. Jack Williams, and his X is Jackson G50. So follow along on those. You also have YouTube, which is at H. Jack Williams. So subscribe there as well. What would you say is the best way for people to support what you do, Jack?
Oh, I go on my socials, I think.
Just follow along,
I-
share, and
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to start back the YouTube thing that I started a year ago, the Stories from the Rear View, where I did 3 episodes.
I loved it. Yeah.
I kind of let it go because I didn't know really what I was doing, but I still don't know, but everybody wants me to do that again. So I'm probably going to start back with that.
Yeah, I think it's a badass idea, man. And if you're just on the road, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Might as well do it, man. Well, Jack, again, I appreciate your time today, man. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much, too. It's been a pleasure, and it's been fun.
This is Bucky Hurd, and thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.